So I'm a little late to the bandwagon, so to speak. I knew about the show. I just had no interest in watching it. I didn't believe it could be as good as people say. Spoiler alert, it is. Euphoria Season 1 was released in 2019, and spoilers for the first season and the 2 special episodes that follow it, which lead into Season 2. I'm going to talk about them here a little bit, and then I'll probably talk about them when I do my Season 2 review, whenever that is. I have not started Season 2, so I don't know anything about it. I'm going to start it tonight, and I'm excited to start it. But yeah, so spoilers if you don't know about that, but instead of talking about what I liked and what I didn't like about the film or this show, this season, I'm going to talk about the character arcs and what I liked about them in particular. I did this with Breaking Bad Season 2, I think, and I thought it went well. I thought it was a good video, and I think it's more important that I talk about these specific things than the whole broad thing. Like, with a film, it's a lot easier to talk about, cinematography and all that stuff. There are some stuff I'm going to talk about camera technique-wise and all that stuff in here, but I'm not going to focus on that, per se, right now. So I want to talk about the main character, Rue, first, of course, played by Zendaya, who I think won an Emmy for this. If she didn't, she should have. She's brilliant. I think this is definitely the defining moment for me in terms of, like, seeing her not as a Disney star. Not because of all, like, the softcore porn or, like, the drug use or anything like that, but just because I think she, as an actress, has matured. And honestly, seeing her in this, I can't imagine her ever wanting to go back to Spider-Man. I just don't see it happening. I think she will because of Tom Holland, but I think that as an actor, I think she is better than Tom Holland. I think she has matured as an actress. She can play these more deep roles in comparison to Tom Holland. Although Tom Holland has tried and been mildly successful with his performances and other more adult kind of things, they have all sucked. His performance is good. The movies have sucked. I think this is the perfect platform for Zendaya to blossom into this kind of adultish actress, right? Like, we saw Jeanette McCurdy go from Nickelodeon to doing, I forget what show it was, but this is a show, and she's an adult in that, and then that ended her career. So it's hard to transition like that, and I think Zendaya is doing perfectly here. But let's talk about her character a little bit. So we kind of get to know her right when she gets back home from rehab. She gets home from rehab and immediately starts doing drugs again, immediately. She gets other people to pee in cups for her, and she uses that to fake her mom into thinking that, she's not really doing drugs. Honestly, not gonna lie to you, the first episodes are kind of dry and boring. They did nothing for me. I was like, okay, I get it. I know what the show already is. I don't care much more than that. Luckily enough, episode 3 is fantastic. Episode 4 is a masterpiece. So it does pick up after that. But for the first couple episodes, it just feels like your typical teen drama. There's nothing special about it. The characters are all kind of one-dimensional, and you don't really care. So the first couple episodes, she comes home from rehab, she meets Jules, and you're like, okay, there's the love interest, blah, 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 blah. And then I think it's the end of episode 2, might be episode 3, that she freaks out outside of Fez's house. Fez, by the way, being one of my favorite characters, and I'm not going to talk about for this season, just because I don't want to take all of your time. But I think he is probably my second or third favorite character in the show. I love him. And she's freaking out. She's like, "Get me drugs! This is all your fault." And for some reason, I felt relatable. I was like, "Whoa! Why do I feel sad about this? Like, it's not even my problem." But I'm like, part of me somewhere inside was like, I have felt this exact feeling before of just outside anger for an inward problem, and I related on such a big level with just a freak out, the mental breakdown she had outside of Fez's house. I just fully related to, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really, really good. So well done for that. I think it's probably the most emotional this season really gets. There are more emotional problems and situations, but this one, of course, I think felt deep and emotional and made us really care for the main character here, Rue. Then, of course, she really falls for Jules. She discovers, she actually loves her. She's a lesbian, which she didn't really know before. And Jules also kind of being a lesbian at this point is kind of confusing as well. But we'll get to that later. And then, of course, she starts being a little weird, and Jules starts being a little weird, and their relationship kind of crumbles, which I haven't seen in a single season of a show yet. I have not seen, like, an entire character go from, like, loving each other to just like not really, but also conveying this like I still love you, but maybe not. And like the people have tried. There have been shows that have tried. There have been movies that have tried. And I think all of them have failed until now. We've finally gotten to a point where, episode, 6 and 7 of this, where this weird, awkward thing where, like, you feel awkward about it. You're like, oh, Rue loves Jules, but Jules might not love her back. And it's this weird, uncomfortable feeling. And it went really well. I thought that was really well done because it could have easily been awful and uncomfortable. But it went uncomfortably in a good way. So I like that a lot. Then Rue is like, we can just leave. We go to New York City. We can just get to the train station right now. And Jules is like, I got you. Let's do it. Because Jules is crazy, sort of. So they go, and then Jules gets in the train, and Rue's like, I just started feeling maybe this is a bad idea, which Rue was actually correct in saying it's a bad idea, because why would that be a good idea? She was just feeling crazy and impulsive, as a lot of young teens do. And Jules was dead serious. She's like, no, let's go. And then she leaves. She leaves Rue behind, and Rue then goes into a terrible, terrible relapse. And it's a beautiful ending to the first season. I was like when they rolled the credits, I was like, no way they ended it like that. I can't imagine what it must be like to have watched this show in 2019 and have to wait 3 years for another season. It must suck to suck. That does not sound like something I would like to participate in. Although I'm sure season 2 will probably end on something similar, and I will be in the same boat, so I guess there's that. Jules is the secondary character, although I kind of like her character more than Rue. I think she has more to do, and I think I like her more in general. And I think that over the course of the next couple seasons, she might become the main character, or at least be tied for the main character for Rue. Like, we understand Rue is definitely the main character. She introduces every episode. Every single episode starts with a monologue by Rue. So we know she's the main character, but Jules feels like it's the main important character of the show, and I appreciate that they gave her the time that she needed to develop her character as well. But Jules is kind of crazy, and she is transitioning into a female. I think she has fully transitioned into a female, and it's great. It's a beautiful representation of a transgender female, because we don't have any of those. And in the movies and in a lot of the TV shows, they just don't work. And this is the first one that actually worked. I was very impressed with the integration of that topic into the show without making it a political statement or without making it incorrect. So that was really good. But she falls for this guy named Tyler, who is this internet person who turns out to be Nate, which we'll get to later. But Nate is this awful person who Jules kind of falls in love with through proxy. And it's awful, because then he's like, I will tell everyone that you've been sending nudes to me if you try to destroy my life. Well, blah, 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 blah. It's crazy. It's absolutely freaking insane. So then she, of course, then falls for Rue, but then she's kind of in love with Tyler still, even though Tyler's a fake person, which we kind of get into in the special episode, number 2. But for the most part, it's she falls in love with Rue, and then she goes to her hometown for a little bit and falls in love with somebody there, and then she's tied in these 3 different places, confused about her own feelings. She's like, I love Tyler, but Tyler's fake. She's like, Tyler is perfect, but of course, Tyler can't exist, because perfectness doesn't exist. So then she's like, I really love this person, but she lives pretty far away, and she's just absolutely crazy, and she's wild, and I like that a lot. But then we also have Rue, who she feels this, she's tied down to her, because whenever she leaves or whenever she, says, oh, maybe we shouldn't hang out today, she's afraid that Rue is going to fall into a relapse, which is incredible in terms of relatability. I mean, I haven't, experienced that exact situation, but, there's guilt involved, right? And I think guilt is something that's hard for television to get to in terms of a feeling or an emotion. And this worked so well. She felt guilty. And you can see it in the show, but then just to make sure that you knew it was guilt, she talks about it in her special episode in the bridge season between 1 and 2, and I thought that was really cool that they actually talked about it instead of just showing it, because oftentimes it doesn't work, but this time it really did work because we saw it first, then they talked about it. I thought that was really, really cool. Kat is probably my favorite character in the entire show. And I say that about, I think, most characters because they're all freaking great, which doesn't happen very often. But Kat is this overweight female who is deemed unattractive by most. And I feel that, I'm also overweight. I'm an overweight male. I don't care that I'm unattractive, but she cared deeply that she was unattractive because she was around people who were deemed, attractive. They all had boyfriends, they all had multiple boyfriends, really. But they kind of, they accepted her into the group because she was, popular when she was young. But then, when she finally loses her virginity at a party and somebody films it, she ends up on a website, let's call it Pornhub, and she decides, oh, I can actually make money by making videos of posting on Pornhub and finding people who are willing to spend money on me. And so she kind of develops this really awful personality of just, like feeling like, it's so hard to explain because no one has ever felt this before, or at least I haven't. She's selling, videos of herself online, but her personality becomes this weird transfigured version of herself where she is awful because she's mean to everyone and she is kind of a little stuck up, and she changes her entire wardrobe to look like sexy, and honestly it was really cool. I liked how it looked really good, but what it was confidence, which was the good part of this transition. She learned confidence out of this, and by the end of this season, she kind of realizes, I don't need to do this, I just need to find someone who's willing to accept me for me. Of course, that being Ethan, played by, I think his name is Austin Abrams, who is from Paper Towns. I don't love the movie Paper Towns, I love the book Paper Towns, and I love his interpretation of the character that he played in Paper Towns. Anyway, Ethan was great. I don't want to talk about him too much because he's kind of a side character, but I liked him a whole lot, and the whole connection between him and Kat, particularly at the end when he said, I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't know the exact line, but he was like, listen, all right, if someone's going to get hurt here in this relationship, I'm going to try really hard to make sure it's me. And I was like, did John Green write for this show? Like, what the hell? It was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. That ended the character arc very well. I don't know where they're going season 2-wise. I hope that they continue with Ethan. Don't spoil it in the comments, please. I'm starting season 2 today, so maybe it actually will be, but don't spoil it anyway, because I really would like to find out through the course of watching. I want to talk about Nate briefly. Nate is great, but his main issue is that he's an awful person. He treats women unfairly. He treats everyone kind of unfairly. But there's this kind of subplot where his dad is gay, and he's kind of gay, and they're unsure of how to talk about it. They can't talk to each other about it because they both understand that they can't be gay. So because of societal rules. He's a big football star. He can't be gay. He wants to go to college. He can't be gay. And that's kind of the thing in that household, is that they can't really talk about it. And there's this beautiful scene, I think it's in the last episode, where they kind of have a fight and Nate is on the floor just screaming for a minute. And it just felt so soothing to me, which is really strange. I'm sitting here and I'm like, thank God, he's finally getting out some of the stress. He's finally just getting it all out. I don't know where season 2 is going to go for Nate, but I hope it's good. I feel bad for the character a little bit. I know he's awful. I know he choked a woman and he's, abusing women, but I also have this feeling of just awe at the character. I'm like, I feel like you deserve more than what you're getting, but also you're an awful person. So it's like a Breaking Bad issue, and I like that a whole lot. There are other characters like Nate's girlfriend, and then there's this other girl who gets pregnant with her boyfriend, who's a great character. He has a whole issue with frat boys and then being unable to be sexually aroused because of it, and there's so many interweaving characters, and each and every one of them is at the forefront at some point. Every episode starts with a back, knowledge of other characters, and I love that. I hope season 2 continues with that, but I don't know where they're going to go with it. The bridge episodes were okay. Rue's episode was just her talking to Ali, another character who I really like that needs more attention. Just talking to Ali for an hour, and then Jules talked to her therapist for an hour, both of which were just absolutely brilliant episodes, and I really, really liked them. So I hope they kind of continue to make episodes similar to that, but the camera techniques in the show were brilliant. I do want to talk briefly about one in particular. I think it was at the end of episode 4, maybe it was 3, when the camera rotates around the bed and then enters other scenes. I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So that was really cool. And I also really liked, there's this one part, it's at the dance thing at the finale, where they kind of move the camera around. It's almost like one continuous take going between every single couple, and I was like, oh my goodness, how did they do this? I'm blown away by this show, this season. It's absolutely brilliant. I wish the first 2 episodes were a little faster and a little bit less dry, but beyond that, this show is pretty much perfect. I'm going to give Euphoria Season 1 an A. Have you guys seen Euphoria Season 1? Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about it. I would love to hear about it, so please consider letting me know. And subscribing is a huge help, so please consider doing that if you liked what you saw. And as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and we'll see you guys in the next video.